said, the product is -6, the sum is -1. Can anyone give us two numbers whose product is -6 and whose sum is -1? And +2. Very good. The sum is -1, the product is -6. Both our conditions are fulfilled. Therefore, I will replace the middle term by -3y plus 2y, and I have to copy the last term. Now, it will be a mistake to go back and recombine them because we worked hard to get these two numbers. Please do not go back and write, oh, I know, this is simplified into 6y squared minus y minus 1. No, this is not what you want. Now, we notice that we have 4 terms, and there is only one possibility for 4 terms. Grouping. That's it. Very good. Wonderful. So we have to factor by grouping. Good. So from the very first two, what would you pull out? So from the first two, you will pull out a 3y. Excellent. What is left in parentheses? What should I have coming out from the other two before I even look? Otherwise, I cannot continue. And now I look. I need a sign. +1. Now, I have two terms, and these two terms have a common factor that I have to pull out. So please dictate that common factor that I have to pull out. And something has to come out from the first term, which is, and something has to come out from the second term, which is 1. Any questions? Any questions?
How did you just answer your last question?
Say it again.
You said something has to come out from a...
Something has to be left over from the first term, which is 3y, after I remove 2y minus 1. And something has to be left from the second term, which is 1.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Can you do another one like that?
Of course. Any questions on this? Okay, let's say, what if we made an error? Let's check. It only takes 10 seconds to check. Here it is. One more time. 2y times 3y is 6y squared. (2y times 3y is 6y squared). +2y minus 3y is -y. -1 times 1 is -1. Okay? Do we all see it? Okay, very good. So let's look at another problem. Here it is. 2x squared plus x plus 1. It's a trinomial. It's in descending order, no greatest common factor, no negative leading coefficient. Can I use a special product? No, because 2x squared is not a perfect square. Do I use item 6, in which the leading coefficient is 1? No. So I'm down to the very last chance, last possibility. The product of those two numbers is 2, and the sum of those numbers is 1. So can anyone give us two numbers whose product is 2 and whose sum is 1?
No.
Very good. Not factorable.
Is it always going to be that case if
It depends on the numbers. Okay, here's the next one. 4x squared minus 4x minus 15. Let's take 1 minute and work on this problem. Raise your hand if you need help. And in the meantime, I will try to find where these are. Okay, I found them on page 402. Let me know if you need help. You must go through, you cannot skip when you start factoring, you cannot skip any of those steps. You have to say, it's a trinomial, it's in descending order, no negative leading coefficient, no greatest common factor, no special product, and 1 is not the leading coefficient. You make your life more difficult if you do not ask yourselves whether a special product is applicable, and it happens that it is applicable. You're making it everything more difficult. Do we have the first step? Can anyone just give us what we're looking for? Two numbers whose product is negative 60, very good, and whose sum is? When the product is negative, what type of numbers are you looking for? If a product of two numbers is negative, am I looking for two positives, two negatives, or a positive and a negative? Good. Yes, please.
How'd you get 60?
Remember, because the leading coefficient is not 1, I have to incorporate it into the product.
Okay.
Thank you for asking, because I'm sure other students had the same question. But it's kind of warm here, and everyone is kind of sleepy, I think.
Yeah, negative 10.
Excellent. Negative 10 and 6. Now, can anyone dictate what do I have to write using negative 10 and 6?
4x squared minus 10x plus 6x minus 15.
Do you all agree with this? Everyone? Please tell me what to write. Or do you all agree with 2x coming out of the first two terms? What is left in parentheses? Do you all agree with 2x minus 5? What do I have to have coming out of the second set, the second pair, before I even look? Because if I don't write it first, who knows what I'm going to come up with? That messes up the whole problem. I have to come up with 2x minus 5. And now I can look. It's safer this way. I need a sign. Positive 3. Do you all agree with positive 3? Let's check. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Agreed? Now these two terms have a common factor that has to come out. And then I have to have something coming out from the first term, which is this, and something coming out from the second term, which is this.
2x minus 5, 2x plus 8.
Is this better? Any questions? Please.
Can you explain the last steps?
From here? From this step here? Okay. I removed 2x plus 5 by putting it in front. So I'm left with 2x plus 3. Better? Perfect. 5x squared minus 26x plus 5. 1 minute. Please. Go through all the steps in your mind, and then we can go ahead and choose problems if you want from page 402. I'd like to choose a couple. 18, 30x squared minus 23x plus 3. And 36. Do not copy them just now. You have plenty of time to do so. and then we'll look at polynomials. Can anyone tell us what are we looking for? Do you all agree with negative 25 and negative 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So can anyone give us
5x squared minus 25x minus x plus 1.
from the first two terms, what will come out?
5x.
What is left in parentheses? What comes out from the other two? Otherwise, I can continue, and if I look, who knows what I'm going to write. So now, what happens? Are we comfortable or feeling better about this now, or? Okay, so let's do 18. Any questions on this problem? Here's 18. 30x squared minus 23x plus 3. So can anyone give us the product? And can anyone give us the sum? Okay, so here's what I would have done. Looking at 90, I know this is 9 times 10, this is 3 times 3, and this is 2 times 5. So 90 in prime numbers is 2, 3, 3, and 5. Because 90 is a large number. Now, since the product is positive, but their sum is negative, what numbers am I looking for? 2 positives, 2 negatives, or a positive and a negative? Do you all agree that we are looking for 2 negatives? Okay. So now, using all these factors, I have to come up with 2 numbers. But I'm using all factors. 2 numbers, actually, whose sum is 23. So, we are adding 18 and 5. So, in my opinion, this is easier for large numbers. You're not going to have, I'm not going to put large numbers on factoring because we have the quadratic formula. There is an easier way to, why would we reinvent the wheel? But when on smaller numbers, yes, this is possible. So then I know how to rewrite this. How do I rewrite it? Can anyone tell us what we pull out from the very first 2 terms? 6x, bless you, what is left in parentheses? What comes out from the other 2? I won't look because who knows what I... Okay. And then sign and number. Very good. So then I pull out... Perfect. Let's work on 36, please. 10a to the third plus 17a squared plus 3a. Have we gotten the picture on how to factor these trinomials with a leading coefficient that is not 1? But remember, it needs a lot of practice. I'm ready when you are. What will you do first? What is the very first step? Please remember, do not skip any of the steps from the strategy. It's in descending order. It's a trinomial. It does not have a negative leading coefficient. Does it have a greatest common factor that can be pulled out? Which is A. In parentheses, please. Now, I'm looking for two numbers whose product is and whose sum is. Do I have two numbers? Can I find two numbers whose product is 30 and whose sum is 17? 2 and 15. So I will rewrite A, 10a squared plus 2a plus 15a plus 3. Now what will you tell me to factor out from the first two? 2a. What is left in parentheses? What is left from the other two? Okay. Plus 3. Good. So then there is an a outside. What is the common factor now? Okay, how do you feel about factoring these trinomials with a leading coefficient? Okay, excellent. Good. Finally, now this is the easiest one. Strategy for factoring polynomials. By polynomials, I mean not binomials and not trinomials, because we did that separately. So now when we talk about polynomials, we mean 4 or more terms. Here's the strategy. 1, same question. What is it? 2, same question, descending order. 3, the same question, negative leading coefficient. 4, the same question, greatest common factor. And 5, and the only one is factor by grouping. That's it. Nothing else. So I'm going to choose this problem first. 2x cubed minus 6x squared plus x and minus 3. This is the easiest. If you get 4 terms, you can say I'm lucky. It's the easiest. We just did it over and over. From the first two, oh, I should say, I'm sorry. Greatest common factor, none. Negative leading coefficient, no. It's a polynomial. Factor by grouping. So what comes out from the first two? 2x squared. What is left? What do I have to come to get from? Okay. And now I look, and it's positive 1. The common factor is now let's look at the, that's all. That's all about factoring. I can't teach you more because I don't know more. This is it. That's all there is. So on page, it's called integrated review. This is what I would do between now and Monday. If I were you, on page 411 from 1 through 100, Only those that have one variable. I really don't care for more than one variable. So if it has 2 or 3 variables in it, move on to the next one. So allow me to choose a couple. I'm going to mix them up. They will be everything together, and then we can start chapter 11. 84. I'm just going to choose 3. 84, 100, and let me choose one more. 52. I will do all these problems and check the answer in the back. However, be careful. They are not pulling out a negative sign or -1 or arrange it in descending order. But then in chapter 7, they say, oops, we should have done that in chapter 6. So that is a crucial step to factor out -1 and the greatest common factor. Okay, I'm going to copy 84. So in 84, y squared plus 22y plus 96. 1 minute. Please go through the strategy. What it is, how do I factor, and so on and so forth. And actually, before starting chapter 11, I'd like to apply factoring in solving equations. So it's in descending order. It's a trinomial. No negative leading coefficient, no greatest common factor, no special product, but 1 is the leading coefficient. So therefore, I'm looking for 2 numbers whose product is and whose sum is and the answer is, so do you all agree with y plus 6 and y plus 16? Yes? Okay, 100. Any questions on 84? On 100, we have a to the third minus 45 minus 9a plus 5a squared. And when I see this, I should say it cannot be difficult. Why? Because it has 4 terms, and the only strategy for 4 terms is grouping. But it's not in descending order. So it's a polynomial. So a to the third plus 5a squared minus 9a and not minus 45. So a squared, and what is left in parentheses? Okay. What should I have from the other 2? So then I have a -9. The common factor is, what do I do with a squared minus 9? completely factored. I chose one more before equations, 52. Any questions on problem 100? Any questions? Okay, 52, last one before we apply this procedure in solving equations. 52, 3 minus 2x minus x squared. Good, 1 minute. Should I text the building, the facility manager that it's very hot or not?
Yes.
Let me see where I have it. I said very hot in here, Phil. Help, 401.
Can you just run that thermostat down there?
It is. It's at the bottom. Yeah, I checked when it was the same thing yesterday. Okay. Can anyone get us started here?
Negative x squared minus 2x plus 3, and take that negative 1, x squared plus 2x minus 3, negative x minus 1.
Why? Because the product is -3 and because the sum is +2. Perfect. So now I would like us to use what we learned or reviewed factoring to solve equations. And my handout. Okay, here it is. So let's say, so solving equations by factoring. And I like to start with 4x squared minus 18x equals 70. What do I have to do first? What type of equation is it? What type of equation is it? We know so many by now. We know linear, we know quadratic, we know absolute value equations, we know radical equations. It cannot be linear because if it's linear, I separate the
It's a no real one.
It's the quadratic.
Oh.
Quadratic, degree 2. How do I solve a quadratic equation? What do I have to do first? Exactly, set it equal to 0. So 4x squared minus 18x minus 70 equals 0. The key word here is always simplify. If you can, simplify. Okay, so let's simplify because I can. Both sides are divisible by 2. Very good. So let's simplify by 2. 4x squared divided by 2 is negative equals. Good. So much easier, right? I don't want to multiply 4 by negative 70. I'd rather multiply 2 by negative 35, right? It's in descending order, no negative leading coefficient. I took care of the greatest common factor. No special product. I always hope for a special product, but there is none. 1 is not the leading coefficient. So I'm down to the very last option, in which I'm looking for two numbers whose product is and whose sum is. Since the product is negative, what type of numbers am I looking for? Two positives, two negatives, a negative and a positive. Very good. 14 and 5. Which one is negative? Right. So let's discuss this for a moment. I know that 70 is 7 times 10, and 10 is 2 times 5. So 70 is 2 times 5 times 7. Using all factors, I need a positive number and a negative number to add up to negative 9. So I see that this, if I use the 14 and the 5 alone, I will get the negative 9. So negative 14 and positive 5. So it's easier if you just break it down into prime numbers. You list them in ascending order, and then just try to figure out which numbers, because if you start and check each and every possibility, it will take you a long time. Okay, so then can anyone dictate the new equation?
2x squared minus 14x plus 5x minus 35.
Of course, you don't go back and combine. That would be a mistake. So now 4 terms. What comes out? What is left in parentheses?
X minus
What should I get from the other two? If I forget the equal symbol and 0, I mess up the whole problem. Now I look. So it's positive 5. Good. So then
x minus 7, 2x plus 5 minus 72.
Seven.
remember you move 5, but don't forget to divide by 2. So we used factoring to solve this equation. And that's one of the applications of factoring. Any questions on this problem? Okay. 2x cubed minus 50x equals 0. 2x cubed minus 50x equals 0. It's in descending order, no negative leading coefficient, but I can simplify the equation both sides by 2. I never divide by x. Of course, you didn't say that, I'm just pointing out. We never divide by x. Okay, so what do we have on the left-hand side? Greatest common factor? Which one? I think you said it, but I just want to make sure. X. What is left in parentheses? And by the way, before we do this, what is the degree of this polynomial? John? What is the degree of this polynomial?
3.
How many solutions do I have to present, even if they're all the same? 3 solutions. Good. So then I factor out x. What is left in parentheses? Good. And then
X equals 0.
excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. What about this one? First of all, how many solutions? And I'll let you work on it for a minute. How many solutions will you have to present even if they're all the same? Which is not the case. 4. Degree 4, 4 solutions. So please work on this for 1 minute. So coming back to x to the fourth minus 36x squared equals 0, what would you tell me to do first?
Not x squared.
Very good. What is left in parentheses?
X squared minus 36.
So then x squared
X plus 6x minus 6. 6 negative 6. Negative 6. What's 0.
because x squared is x times x plus 6 times x minus 6. So twice x equals 0. And you'll see in the next course what that means when the solution like that appears twice or more. Okay, here's your next equation, please. 3x to the third. Say it again.
Oh, no.
Okay, 3x to the third plus 2x squared minus 27x minus 18. Can anyone tell us anything about this equation? What should I do? Okay. From the first two? Do we all agree with x squared and 3x plus 2 in parentheses? And what should I get from the other two? Do you all agree with negative 9 in front? Okay, what is the common factor now? But what about x squared minus 9? And I forgot to ask you how many solutions would you have to write? Good. So 3x plus 2, x minus 3, x plus 3 equals 0. If you forget the equal symbol and 0, you're not solving. So then we have three solutions. Can anyone give us those three solutions? Negative 3, positive 3, and you move 2 and divide by 3. So this equation has three solutions. Positive and negative 3, and then negative 2/3. Our next equation is 4y squared minus 81. Any questions on the previous one, please? Yes, please.
Yeah, can you explain to me how you got to 3x plus 2 minus 9 and 2x plus 2 is the next step?
Oh, from here? I pull this out, and I'm left with x squared minus 9. X squared from here, negative 9 from here. Then I factor this because it's a binomial which uses the difference of squares. So I copy 3x plus 2, and then this is broken up into x minus 3 and x plus 3. So I get a solution from here, which is 3, a solution from here, which is negative 3, and a solution from here, which is negative 2/3. Better? Okay. We're working on 4y squared minus 81 equals 0. And again, you have to go through all those steps. It's a binomial, it's in descending order, no negative leading coefficient, no greatest common factor. Special product, I always hope for a special product. Bless you, do we have it? Is there a special product that will help here? Please tell me and I'll write it. 2y.
minus
How many solutions will you write? 2. So y equals and y equals. Yes, 9 over 2 and negative 9 over 2. Is that okay? It's okay if you say I don't see it, and I'll explain. Don't be shy, please. Are we okay with problem 52? Yes, please.
Is it, I mean, it just looks like the perfect square.
The difference of squares. So is this step clear?
Yeah, like, well, I mean, like, it makes sense. Like, I see it. Yeah, okay, yeah, it makes sense.
So 2y, everything squared is 4y. That's why 2y and 2y. And 81 is 9 and 9. So 2y times 2y is 2y squared. This term with this term will cancel out, and then negative 9 times 9 is negative 81. Is it clear from here, here?
Yeah, you just,
I move 9 and divide by 2. I move 9 and divide by 2. Better? Okay, other questions? Okay, we're working on 67. Remember to go through all the strategy, all the steps in trinomials. Any suggestions?
4 on x minus 7 is 4. Okay, multiply it for 1.
So you expect or hope for a special product, right? I agree. What is it? I agree. So then you'll have two solutions, but they're both the same. X equals? No, because 7 plus 7 is not 0. Negative 7 indeed. You move 7 to the other side, x equals negative 7. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, 71, one more. 71, 7x to the third minus 7x equals 0. By looking at this equation, first of all, how many solutions will you give? And how will you simplify it right away so you make your life easier? Divide. So this is an equation I'm allowed to divide. If I had just something to, an expression to factor, I could have not gotten rid of 7. 7 has to stay as a factor. But this is an equation. I can get rid of it. You cannot divide by x, but you can divide by a number. So the equation becomes x cubed minus x equals 0.
Why would you divide by 7x?
Because if I do, I omit one solution. I can never divide by x. It could be 0. The equation has to have 3 solutions. So what do I do with x cubed minus x?
Bring up x.
Very good. Pull out an x. What is left in parentheses?
X squared, x minus x.
And then I have to further factor. Then 3 solutions.
1, negative 1, 0.
See, if I had simplified or removed the x, I would have never gotten the third solution. So you can never simplify or divide an equation both sides by the variable in any form. Okay, what we did today in less than 2 hours, I complete with my O11 in 3 weeks. This is chapter 6. I need 3 weeks in O11 to finish this. Actually, I'm starting it on tomorrow with them.
So we're smart.
You're very smart. All I want you, everyone. So all I want you to do is just watch the videos over and over. One of my students in college algebra raised his grade, I think I mentioned that, maybe not, from an F to a C. And I asked him, I said, how did you do that? And you know what he